All right, so we'll go ahead and get started so I don't waste too much of your all's time tonight. Welcome to Presnell's Social Studies class. I'm Kevin Presnell. I'm going to introduce myself on the next slide, but I am excited to welcome your freshmen to Central. I used to be one of the freshman leads. I really enjoy letting freshmen get to the building and kind of experience what is so great about Madison Central. I did attend Madison Central. I graduated in 2011 and I love this school. I love my job. I love that I got to come back and help students in my community. Very passionate about this school and making it the best that it can be. So I'm excited to welcome your freshmen here. I did graduate from Eastern in multiple times. I'm working on my 4th degree at EKU right now, actually. Kind of one of those eternal kernels. Actually, my whole family graduated from Eastern. My great grandpa was one of the head football coaches at one point. So we bleed maroon through and through. Definitely love Eastern. I put my family up in the upper left-hand corner of the screen. In the middle there is my little brother. It's Cameron Presnell. He's actually a new social studies teacher. This is his first year. It's quite the year to start. Trying to help him get started as much as possible. But you might have some other freshman friends that are with Cameron Presnell. No, they didn't mess up our names. There is a Kevin and a Cameron. My mother chose to give all of her kids K names, so makes it confusing for everyone. However, I was the first one hired into the district, so I got the luxury of having the Presnell KL login without a number behind my name. So some benefits of getting hired first. If you went to Clark Moore's, or if you know someone that went to Clark Moore's, my mom used to do the cafeteria monitoring. She's now at the front desk at Clark Moore's. So if you have another student there, feel free to say hi to her. And then my sister in the, I think that's like a yellow color. She's used to be 7th grade math, and now this year she's 7th and 8th grade math at Clark Moore's. So a family of educators. My dad, however, not an educator. But if you're from the area, my grandma and my grandpa used to teach as well. So long line of families that worked in Madison County schools. My dog is in the bottom left-hand corner. That's Paco. He's a Dalmatian. He's pretty great, very well behaved, except when he's not, which is frequent. So, but I am excited for the year. I'm excited to meet you all, whether it's virtually or maybe one day we might be in person, hopefully on the 28th, right? We do have a student teacher this semester, so I'm going to let Kaylin introduce herself as well.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm Kaylin Dooley, and I'll be student teaching this fall with Mr. Presnell. I am also from around here. I went to Southern though, and you see in my family picture, both of my parents actually teach high school as well. They teach at Southern. So like Mr. Presnell, teaching is kind of the family business, and here I am, and another K name. So we've got a few things in common, but so I do go to EKU. I'll be graduating in December, and so there's a picture of me, and EKU. I love EKU. We'll probably be going back there for a master's as well. And in my free time, I enjoy just like hanging out with my friends, watching Netflix, the usual. I'm really excited to get to know like your child or you, if you're students on here. I'm really looking forward to this semester. I know it's going to look a little bit different than we're used to, but I'm really excited. So it's awesome meeting all of you, and I'm excited for the semester.
Thank you, Ms. Dooley. All right, so kind of getting into the nuts and bolts of class this semester. This class is called Integrated Social Studies. Honestly, this class, we've not offered the past few years. We've had this class broken up into 2 semesters. So one semester was a civics class, the other semester was a geography class. For the purpose of this year and making all of the craziness that's going on with what's these 3 options and the virtual and making all of this kind of work together, we have we brought this class back, and you're going to have me for the full year for Integrated Social Studies. This is a freshman level course. It does translate actually better than what we were doing across to other schools. It is required for graduation. Students do need to get 3 social studies to graduate from Madison Central. But generally, this idea is kind of an intro to social studies and the different disciplines that make up social studies, right? So we do civics, economics, and geography. The whole first semester, we're going to really focus on civics, especially with it being a presidential election year. It kind of makes it fun learning about government as the presidential election is going on. And then next semester, we'll really hone in on economics and geography. So we'll do geography and then econ after that. All kind of surface level, but we'll pick some topics and kind of get deeper with those, and try to have some different types of conversations. I teach politics, right? And politics is crazy for everyone, especially right now. It seems like it gets crazier and crazier every year. But we try to have discussions that help kids kind of develop their own opinions about what's going on in the world. Just kind of an overview of class times. If you've been in your first period, you've probably got the day's overview, but Madison Central is breaking up into day 1 and day 2. I think that makes it even more manageable, especially for this virtual setting to where you only have to focus on 3 classes each day. You don't have to worry about going to all 6 every day. So it really is a way to help kids be more successful. But even when we return to in-person, we'll still do the day 1 and day 2. I have this on a calendar elsewhere to kind of make it easier for you all to understand. Social studies is doing tutoring. We'll have 2 teachers available on Tuesdays and Thursdays every week. So for example, if there's something going on and you have a question that's outside of school hours, feel free to jump on, especially Tuesdays. Miss Briscoe teaches integrated social studies as well. So she'll be able to answer any question because she's doing the same type of work in her room. So she'll kind of know how to help. But then Mr. Dial has all of our contact numbers, so he could definitely follow up with us if there's a question. You can just hop on those Zoom meetings and let them know that something's going on. I have posted that Zoom link into my Google Classroom. It says virtual tutoring Zoom, something like that. You'll just go click on that link whenever you need to get into it, and they'll be there waiting for you. Here's the calendar for September. Just because the days are kind of confusing with the school calendar and how this is all working. Day 1, we're going to start on Wednesday, but you can see the blue and the red days. You can see how it's being broke up. Since this is second period, day 1 is the one that's kind of the most confusing. So I figured this might help you actually made this based on what the school said. But we'll have class Wednesday and Friday, but then we won't have it next Monday because it's Labor Day. Then we'll have class every Friday for just this month. But then on the 16th and the 23rd, you won't have school. It's PD day. So we'll be here. You can definitely reach out if you have questions those days, but you won't actually have to get on Zoom or do any of that on those days. How class is going to work this semester, or at least for these 15 days, right, to get us started. We'll always kind of start with Zoom at our scheduled time. And it might not be the whole, well, it definitely won't be the whole 2 hours. I don't typically lecture in class anyways, but I couldn't lecture for an hour, let alone for 2 hours and keep my sanity. So we'll start on Zoom. There might be a lecture at one point, but it will never take more than an hour. But most frequently, Zoom will look like 20, 30 minutes to get you all started. Kind of maybe we'll have a discussion. It could go a little bit longer, and then I'll explain an assignment that you'll be working on. And then you'll be able to get off of Zoom and work on your assignment. But I'll keep Zoom on so you can always jump back on if there's any question as you're working. So something that kind of gives you the best of being synchronous on Zoom, but also having the asynchronous of assignments kind of warped into the same period, just to make sure that everyone has all the support that they need. I do want to make this nothing like NTI that we did in the spring. I know when I talk to parents around the community, NTI is kind of like a cuss word these days. It was a nightmare for everyone, right? On the teacher's end, we felt that as well. I have never worked more hours in my life than what I did during NTI in the spring. But it was definitely more of a crisis management mode and less of, I mean, at some points we were just wanting to make sure kids got the food that they needed to be successful, right? So we want this to be nothing like what happened in the spring and something that is beneficial for everyone. Obviously, this type of instruction can't replace in-person learning, but we want it to be the best substitute possible to kind of fill the void where we're at for right now. So I don't want this to be anything like NTI. but I do not also want it to be stress on your all's end as well. So if there's ever a concern, please feel free to reach out to me. I don't know that something's going on unless I'm told about it, right? And I'll be happy to fix whatever I can or try to work through whatever we need to work through. But I can't fix something if I don't know it's happening. So feel free to reach out to me if there's ever a struggle that's going on that I can help fix. I did set up some norms, and I'm going to go over this more with the kids on day one. But I very purposeful about making sure that our time on Zoom or our time on Google Classroom is beneficial, and that they're actually getting some type of education out of that. So one of my, and you'll see this on a lot of my forums, I really believe in building a classroom culture on respect. I will treat every student with respect the moment they walk into my classroom. I do ask for that respect in return. So if we're all going around, it really just helps to make sure that the classroom is flowing and that we have a culture that's successful for everyone. Don't waste time. If we're getting on a Zoom, I'm gonna ask kids to be focused on what we're doing. I don't wanna keep kids on there longer than we need to. So if we're all focused on getting through the work that's assigned, then we'll be able to get off Zoom as quick as possible. I don't know about you all, but if you've spent much time on Zoom, after a few hours of it, it really starts to play with your head. Like you get headaches and stress and all of this. So making sure that we can get through this as quick as possible, I think is beneficial for everyone. Asking relevant questions, working together, stay committed. All of these are different norms. And like I said, I will go over these in more details with the students later. But just to make you aware of kind of the expectations I'm setting for class this semester. Some rules that what our department is really establishing for Zoom. We are going to ask that videos are turned on. One of the benefits of face-to-face instruction is that you have faces, right? So when we actually all get on a class day, we're going to start with cameras on unless there's some circumstance, and feel free to communicate to me if there's something going on that we can't turn the camera on. Maybe you don't have a webcam. We're understanding. We just need to know that something's going on. But it is hard to talk to blank screens. So especially for students, it's hard to have that interaction that they need to have if they're always looking at blank screens. There's backgrounds, there's ways to get around other circumstances, but we are going to ask that videos are kept on. Mute microphones, one of the things that we're going to establish. We'll probably keep microphones muted most of the time, but there will be times where we're having class discussions. So just remembering that they should be turning their mics off afterwards, I think is helpful. And like I said, I'll go over these with more detail with them on Wednesday. But just some general ideas of what we're setting out. I'm going to ask them to stay seated. It becomes very distracting if you're up moving around with your computer. I mean, things happen. I'm not going to write them up for moving around in their own home, right? But something to be kind of cognizant of. Don't do other tasks while class is ongoing. Eliminate distractions, including cell phones. Come prepared, dress appropriately, and participate. I'm not going to be over here marking people off for having a dress code that's out of right. Wear your pajamas. I don't care. I'm just asking that it's appropriate for others to see on a Zoom screen, right? And then be respectful with your words and action. That's something that I take very serious, especially when you start talking about politics with other people. Things can get heated quickly. So I just ask that you assume that people aren't trying to be negative, right? Know that people have differences of opinions, and that's okay. That's what makes our world so great. We don't always agree, but we can disagree respectfully. And that's something that I'm pretty passionate about, especially talking about in politics nowadays. I mean, I think the world needs more of that. Some tips for successful Zooming, and this is just some ideas to help make you more successful or make your kids more successful on Zoom. Microphones and headsets do help, especially if you're going to be in a louder area. So keeping that in mind, that you could get a headset, something with a mic that could focus in the audio. Dressing for success. I don't know about you all, but during quarantine, when I would wear sweatpants every day, it changes your mentality about what you're going to do that day. So sometimes just getting up and getting dressed and, putting on the khakis or some nice jeans, I don't know what, does help to get you ready for the day. So that's something to kind of keep in mind. Maybe you want to get dressed one day and I don't know, set high expectations. Who knows? Maybe you want to get dressed for those first day of school pics that you're going to go take on your computer. I don't know, but something to keep in mind as you're Zooming with us this for at least these 15 days. Have materials nearby, pencil, paper, surface to write on. Start to log in early. And this is something that we're doing really in response to kind of some of the things that have been happening in other school districts. We are going to ask that you have your first and last name when you get onto the waiting room. That way we aren't just letting strangers into, our Zoom session. So there's ways to set up accounts with Zoom and make sure that you're using a name that we can identify. And that's really what this is about. So we know who's getting into Zoom before we let you in, right? I'm going to put my Remind code up a little bit later, but they're free to message me on Remind. I have it turned on to where they can send me a message there and let me know if they're having trouble getting logged in that day. Be patient. Technology can be unpredictable. Zoom crashed last week, right? It made like national news. The whole Zoom platform crashed. That could happen again. I don't know. So be ready. I will definitely post something or send a remind if something's going on with Zoom for more information about what to do that day. But just be aware that things happen. I might be good, but I can't fix Zoom if Zoom is down, right? So patience will be helpful. And then be cognizant of surroundings. Realize that it could be hard to communicate virtually if there's a lot of stuff going on. So just kind of be aware of that. Getting into grades and what happens with grades. I will use Google Classroom a lot, and all of the assignments we'll do will be through Google Classroom. And I will put grades into Google Classroom. However, Infinite Campus is the official source for grades. So if there's a grade in Infinite Campus and a grade in Google Classroom and they're different, the one that's in Infinite Campus is real. The one that is in Google Classroom, I might have altered it when I put it into Infinite Campus, and that could be purposeful. So just be aware of whatever's in Infinite Campus is the official grade. But if you have a question about a difference or something going on, send me an email. I'll be happy to respond and help out with whatever I can. Grades are, and this is our department's rules, 90% test, quizzes, and assessments, and then 10% based on the final that they'll take at the end of each semester. And grades are semester-based. They're cumulative. They accumulate all semester. You'll get a midterm at the 9 weeks, but that grade isn't official. It's not official until the end of the semester. And then in January, you'll start back over. So you'll start at a 0 and work up to whatever points value that you're getting. Kind of a late work policy. Just to make sure we're getting work turned in and we're not constantly having to go back and grade everything that's still coming in. We do have a late work policy that's a tiered reduction plan. A few days, like we take 10% off each day that it's late. Obviously, this is a weird circumstance, so we'll be understanding. Like I said earlier, you just have to communicate with me and let me know what's going on so we know that how we can help you, right? If I don't know what's going on, I can't help. So just communicate with me, stay in constant communication, and let me know what's going on. And then this is something that freaks people out at first, but once I kind of explain it, it does help people. Whenever I go through and grade something, I try to get it graded as close to the day I've made it due as possible. Usually I try to get it graded the day it was due or maybe the next day, right? But what I do is go ahead and put a 0 in there based on if it's turned in or not. So if it's not turned in on when I grade it, I'm going to go ahead and put a 0 in there. I will change that grade as soon as I get the work turned in. I just do this as a reminder for both you all and me to let you know that it's due and I'm looking for that assignment. The grade will change, like I said, as soon as I get it. It's just something to keep us all informed that I need that turned in sooner rather than later. And I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, if you do have questions, feel free to pop in. You can unmute your mics or type it into the chat box. I do participation points in my class, but it's really something a way to motivate kids to stay involved. I don't give points based on doing stuff. I give everyone points and then just take them away if there's something that goes on. That's something that I'm going to continue with this virtual learning. I'll give you 5 points for each time you get onto a Zoom for just getting on and participating with class. If for some reason you're absent or you can't attend Zoom that day or you can't do what's going on, if you let me know, I will give you some type of alternate assignment. That way you can make up the participation points. So you're not going to be penalized for not being there. I just need to know so I can make the assignment possible. Will I have a class supply list when class starts? I don't typically, so I do have some successful, and I do have a class supply list that will help you get started. But typically a notebook, a binder, something just to keep material organized is really the best thing. And like I said, I will give you a list when school, I usually do that in person, but I'm not particular. It doesn't have to be one thing. As long as they have a folder or something to keep work in, that's really the most important thing. Here's the Remind code if you want to text and join Remind or get your student to join Remind. You can text @PresnellSS to 81010. And that will be the Remind. That way you can join and get the information as I'm texting out what's supposed to be going on. As always, you can email us. My email is kevin.presnell@madison.kyschools.us. Kaylin has one of those emails as well. Hers is also just her first and her last name @madison.kyschools.us. So feel free to email either of us if you have questions. That way we can help with whatever we need to. With that being said, parents, you can also get notifications from Google Classroom for work that's been assigned or grades that are due. And if you want that, if you will send me an email, that way I can get you signed up for that. Just send me an email and tell me your student's name. That way I can sign you up for that. If you signed up for Google Classroom as a student, I can't let you stay in as a student. Just because we'll be having some like discussion boards on there. It does breach some confidentiality rules as you're doing that. So I can't let parents be in Google Classroom as a student. But like I said, I will add you as a parent on there so you can get those email updates either daily or weekly, whatever you want, it will do. But I just need to know so I can get that taken care of. I did make a classroom website to try to keep you as informed as possible, and I will drop that link into the chat box so you can save it. This is posted in Google Classroom, so if you ever need to get on there, just ask your student to show it to you. But if you look in here, it'll bring up, and here's my classroom, a picture of it, what it looks like, short little course description, and a welcome to class. I do have my syllabus posted there, so if you want to read through that, you're more than welcome. But this is something I was struggling with how to communicate the calendar because I know these days will get so confusing, and I did post that here as well. So you'll have that for here. But then October is posted there, so you can kind of get the dates that are going to be on there as well. On here too, I have posted calendars for each class period. And what this is that it's actually just the Google Calendar for each Google Classroom. So as I assign things onto Google Classroom, those dates will automatically populate on here, and you'll be able to see what assignments are due and when that's supposed to be happening. There's some other information on here as well, how to stay in contact, helpful tools, for example, how to log on to Google Classroom, how to access Zoom, stuff like that, just to make sure that you have all the resources you need. But there's going to be a lot of stuff on here. Feel free to peruse it, kind of see what's going on and what you need. With that being said, this is going to be hopefully a great 15 days. But it's one of those situations where we're building the plane while it's flying. I've never done this before, but I am excited to see what we can accomplish. But I do ask for some grace, patience, and flexibility. And I will extend that as well. That goes both ways. I know we're all learning in this situation. We're going to make the most out of it. But I think that this could be helpful to making sure that we're all successful. the first day of school, we're going to do a lot of what we just did here, but there's some, I'm going to show them how to use Google Classroom. There's some student info. We'll go over the syllabus, and then they're going to make an About Me Flipgrid that really introduces themselves to the class. With that being said, is there any questions or comments? Do we need to do that for each class or once one? So once one teacher adds you, it should go across each class. So it automatically happens. She asked, do they need to be invited to each class on Google Classroom? And no, it's just for Google Classroom as a whole. So you shouldn't have to do that. Any other questions? You're free to unmute yourself if you need to, or. Awesome. Well, thank you all for getting on tonight. I'm ready to get started on Wednesday. Have a good one.